Well, good morning, everybody. And our first animation today starts off with some satellite data from last night as the sun was setting. This is the first of two quite powerful low pressure systems that are ultimately orbiting around a deep upper level low that's going to sit between the Hudson Bay and the Great Lakes, so right in through here. On the backside of it, we've got a lot of dry air and cold air that's coming through. And it was interesting just to watch the satellite animation from last night. We saw a lot of severe storms kind of erupt along the main frontal boundary here. And we also saw underneath the large Rex block over the west as the sun was setting, you can see the extent of the wildfire smoke in parts of the Pacific Northwest. Another feature to keep an eye on, if you notice right down here over Southern California, you see the swirl in the cloud field. I'll go back and forth here for you. That's part of the base of the Rex block. There's a cutoff low there, and that low will be moving over the next several days over parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, spreading rainfall. But last night, as these storms just continued to kind of push here through the lower Mississippi River Valley into the Tennessee Valley, we did see numerous reports of severe weather. So this is just a quick look at where those reports were yesterday, including 7 reports of tornadoes. There's quite a bit of hail in this, and I went through here and just looking at some of the size of the hail in parts of Arkansas and Mississippi, I generated a hail map for Shelby, Mississippi, which is right here in the middle of the screen. You can see the trajectory of each of these storms, and some of these storms were putting down hail above 2 inches in diameter. So wind damage, hail damage running right here through the lower Mississippi and mid-Mississippi River Valley. But what this particular front did do was over the last 3 days deliver rainfall from Texas all the way up to Michigan, and then of course yesterday right here in parts of the southeast. And this has been an area that's been extremely dry as of late. Now the temperature change behind that front substantial. Just comparing it to yesterday morning at 6 a.m., you can see that the temperatures in some places are 20 to 35 degrees colder than they were a day ago, while we're still quite warm ahead of this. And this is the first of 2 pretty powerful fronts we're going to be watching come through. So today's midday winds, we're going to see wind gusts here in the 30 to 60 mile an hour range through parts of the plains. This is Tropical Storm Carl, which is moving to the south. And but the mainstay of the weather pattern here today and tomorrow is going to be the flow around this upper level low, again, that's sitting between the Great Lakes and the Hudson Bay. So this is front number 1. It's kind of interesting. If I step you up here to 500 millibars, about halfway through the thickness of the atmosphere, you can see the broader polar jet pattern, but you can also see the Rex block. That's the high over low setup that we've been keeping a close eye on. Now, with these strong winds ripping through the midsection of the country, we have 13 states this morning that do have red flag warnings. Underneath this shade of where the red flag warning color is, there is high wind warnings, high wind advisories. We have a frost advisory that's out here for parts of the eastern side of Colorado. And unfortunately, with those strong winds and very dry conditions, we're going to see the risk for field fires through this area and grass fires. Now, with the cold air that's coming behind this and the next front that's coming through, our latest frost forecast map for the next 7 days from the National Digital Forecast Database is now dipping the frost extent pretty far to the south, clipping parts of Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. I mean, that's pretty far to the south into the Tennessee Valley, over the Appalachian Mountains, and possibly hitting Raleigh. So let's go take a look at kind of what's setting this up and where it's going. Our precipitation pattern over the next 7 days really kind of tells the story. There's a lot of dry air that's coming in as the trough dives here into the east. And so the main frontal boundaries just keep setting up in this area while the cutoff low moves like this. So our setup for the next 7 or 8 days is going to be really stuck into this configuration. I'm going to show it to you first by going to the high-res NAM model. Let's get this parked right out there. There we go, about 10 o'clock this morning. So here's the first front moving through. You can see a secondary wave of some colder air coming through on Friday. So there's actually a little, a second event, a second front coming through here Friday evening that we're keeping an eye on. But some snow showers possible coming out of Manitoba, Ontario, into Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP, and Michigan. And it's that front that sweeps right through lower Michigan, coming out of Indiana and Ohio very early on Saturday morning. Now the next big push of colder air is behind this, and to see that we got to flip over to the European model. So as we play forward, this is through Friday into Saturday. Now here it is on Sunday. The extent of that front is right down through here. It's also meeting up with the upper level low, moving across parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And you see the two features kind of sitting together here, delivering rainfall in this area, plus the rain close to the upper level low through the Great Lakes states. Now after that goes through, things dry out, clear out through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. Well, what we're really interested to see is if the pattern's going to shift enough that by the time we get out there to like the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, if we do dip a deep trough into the Pacific Northwest. Because right now, models are showing it. The ensembles are showing it. The operational runs are showing it. We just seem to be stuck in this high over low pattern through the weekend with the deeper trough here over the Great Lakes. And that gets reinforced into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. I mean, look at the depth of that trough behind that next front. This is what's going to be delivering that frost event pretty far to the south here. But it seems to break down as all this momentum picks up right here at the base of this trough in the Bering Sea and comes racing into the Pacific Northwest by Saturday. And now it's showing up really well in the operational runs. It's still a 10-day forecast, but I'm telling you, it's in the ensembles as well, and we've been talking about it all week. So the week 1 precipitation pattern is dry in the Northwest. It's dry through the plains. It's only oriented along that upper level low that's cut off over California to Texas, and then the fronts that keep sweeping through the eastern part of the United States around the deep low that's between the Hudson Bay and the Great Lakes. But week 2, this is the signal we're watching for. That's that potential pattern change. So what are the temperatures going to do? Well, we see that the colder air comes in that second wave right here on Sunday into Monday and Tuesday. That's when we see the cold extent. But notice the warmth that just is maintained throughout this entire forecast in the Pacific Northwest. It won't be until we get out there to the 22nd, 23rd, 24th of the month that this starts to break down. And we can see that by looking at the 5-day sliding window of temperature anomalies. We play this out there through that 3rd week of October into the 4th week, and that's when the pattern shift seems to be occurring. Now remember, if we dip troughs into the west, there'll be some mild days that show up here in the midsection of the country, and we've been locked into some pretty cold weather for a while. What's controlling all of this is mainly transitions in the trade winds that are moving the MJO around, and that's all being kind of controlled by La Nina. And La Nina's also got its grips on what's happening in South America. Not much of a change here from our reports this week. We have a pretty narrow corridor of wet weather that stretches from Parana into Mato Grosso do Sul and up into western parts of Mato Grosso. Also gets into Bolivia. We've seen better rains showing up in the model. It's not nearly as dry in eastern Brazil, but the dryness really continues to be a problem for parts of southern Paraguay, Rio Grande do Sul. This is Uruguay and along the Parana River here in parts of Argentina. And this is going to continue to be a story, I'll be honest, until it's not. And I think it's going to be a story for quite some time. So we'll keep you updated, all right? Have a good day. We'll talk to you again tonight in the in-depth report. Until then, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks.